What's up, guys? This is episode 7 of It's All Love. I'm David. This is Oscar.
What's up, brother?
I'm super excited. We have a guest here by the name of Daniel Santiago. We have him on FaceTime behind the mic. What's up, Daniel? How you doing?
I'm all right, man. You guys good?
Good.
Yeah,
I heard
good.
that we appreciate you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Daniel played basketball professionally in Europe, Spain, Italy, if I'm correct, and he played a couple years in the NBA, right?
Yep.
That's
among
awesome.
other places.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's
And you also played for the Puerto Rican national team, right?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, he did play in the Olympics. He did 2 Olympics, I believe it was in '94 and in 2004, right, Santiago?
It was 96. 96 was my first year playing with Puerto Rico, and that was the year we went to the Olympics in Atlanta. And then 2004 was in Athens. So Atlanta and Athens.
Awesome. That's awesome.
You talking about the Puerto Rican national team. I want to ask this. How does it feel just putting on the jersey for your country, representing, playing for them, just putting on for them? How does that feel like?
Man, it was really a blessing. I grew up in the States, so, I'd always liked watching the Olympics and things like that, and always thought it would be cool to be a part of the Olympics. But I assumed that maybe one day it would be with the USA team or something like that. But Puerto Rico came calling, and next thing you know it's I'm on a plane to Atlanta to go represent Puerto Rico in the Olympics. So it was a blessing, and it was really fun. A unique experience that not very many people have, and not very many athletes have.
Yeah,
Right.
That's awesome, man. I can't imagine.
Now, give us a little background about you growing up. I know that you grew up in Texas, and just give us a detail about growing up when small and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it started out for me. I was born in Texas, in Lubbock, Texas. Was raised on a farm out there near La Mesa, Texas. The community was called Klondike, Texas. So it's a real small farming community. Was in school there till my 5th grade year. Had a lot of fun. Learned a little bit of basketball through my dad. He made a little goal out there for me and my brother, and we'd always play. And I was always, head and shoulders taller than pretty much all my classmates. So, I played a little bit, but I played pretty much all the sports. I was very active and was always outside all the time, and just, playing and competing. And then, my 5th grade year, in the middle of the year, things were getting real tough in the farming community, and we decided to take our talents to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so my parents still live out there, and I learned a lot about basketball in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right. Now, I know that you said I read, I believe, that you loved baseball when you were a kid, and I know that your grandpa, I believe, he played in the major leagues or minor leagues.
In the minor leagues, he played baseball in Puerto Rico. He was from Puerto Rico, and he got a chance to try to make it to the big leagues in playing in the AAA farm system of the LA Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
He played for the Albuquerque Dukes and some other minor league teams in Texas. And so that's kind of where I have, relatives and family in, Texas, and as well as Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, but that was my passion. Loved to play the game. Played it outside. My dad taught me the game. I really enjoyed it. Thought I was gonna be a big leaguer, but I was a big leaguer in a different league.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
but
awesome.
you're 7'1", right?
Yes, sir.
Damn.
I always go 7 foot.
Okay.
Right.
So your
my
first.
grandfather, he was about was about 5'5". His name was Jockey Rodriguez in Puerto Rico because he looked like a jockey, that rides the horses.
Oh, uh-huh.
So ironically, they said that he was too small to make it to the big leagues.
Oh, okay.
But when it was my turn to go to the big leagues, I guess I was at the right height as far as basketball is concerned.
Nice. Now, I saw an interview that you have, I believe, with the academy that you're working with. I think you're working with IMG, is it?
Yes, sir. IMG Academy. It's out here in Bradenton, Florida, which is where I pretty much live right now. I've been living here for the past maybe 10 years or so. But yeah, it's a sports academy. We have all kinds of sports: baseball, basketball, football, track and field, golf, tennis. It was really a tennis academy that it started out as a tennis academy, and then the other sports started coming in, and I actually trained as a pro a couple of years back at IMG, and really liked it, and also got the Puerto Rican national team to come down a couple of times to train and get ready for big tournaments there. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, and it's a blessing, and get to work with some interesting kids from all over the world, and some had even seen me play in different countries, so it's kind of cool.
Nice. Now, I did hear that you said that working in the farm with your dad, you learned about repetitiveness. And can you touch a little bit about that? Because like I'm an electrician myself, and sometimes we do something repetitive, and I'm the type of person that I don't like repetitiveness. It's like I'd rather do change it up a little. I feel like repetitiveness kind of gets me tired, and then it kind of gets me frustrated, and I don't want to do it. And when I heard you say yesterday, talk about how you learn about repetitiveness, it kind of caught my attention, and just kind of wanted to touch that on you. Like what did you mean by that, or how is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, growing up like on a farm, I mean, there's jobs that are very important, but you have to keep doing the same thing over and over in order to receive the fruit of the crop that it bears, the fruit that the crop bears. So just getting up early, going out, making sure the fields are the way they're supposed to be, as far as like not letting weeds or anything like that. So it was a lot of things that we used to do over and over again, and we had our chores and things like that. So I think it's really important, because it helps you to understand that once you do those things over and over again, you get really good at them, or you can also find better ways to do them, and it doesn't take as long. So for basketball, for me, I knew the simple art of making a layup. I mean, everybody pretty much knows how to do it, but you got to be able to do it under different circumstances. And in order to have that confidence, you have to be able to do it with, no pressure, and then little by little more pressure. And if you just keep repeating those actions, it's almost like breathing, and it's not going to be that big of a deal when it's pressure time, because that you've done it before, and you've gone through it before, and you have that confidence. So it's like when you see some of these star athletes, it's like it looks so easy to them, because they're not afraid of repetition. And I always tell our students that, and people that I'm teaching, do not get bored with repetition, because that's what makes you better, and a better athlete, a better student, whatever it is that you're trying to do.
That's awesome. Wow. So you played in Europe for, I know you played for a handful of years for Malaga, right? And then you played for Barcelona and stuff like that. And you played a couple years in the NBA. What's the biggest difference between like EuroLeague basketball and the NBA basketball?
I think the biggest difference is the size and strength and athletic ability of the players. But that can be minimized if you know how to play the game and get separation from your opponent, and play as a team. And so there's a combination of a bunch of different things, but I think that's probably one of the biggest things that stands out. The athletic ability, the size and strength of the players in the NBA compared to the European players. Although there are some European players that can really play and have some good athletic ability, but overall, I think that would be the main thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about like the NBA life, like traveling here and there? Is it that big of a difference with the EuroLeague, or is it kind of all the same?
I think with the EuroLeague, it depends on the team that you're with. There's some teams that have some really deep pockets, and they don't spare no expense for their teams. But those are very few to find. But usually you are flying commercial. Again, it just depends on the team. But as far as the NBA, I mean, all the flights are pretty much charter flights, and you're first class all the way. And you don't have to go through the main terminal, so that really cuts off a lot of time being spent at the airport. You just get off the plane, get to the bus, load it up, and get to where you need to go. So that is a big difference there. But there are some teams in Europe that treat their players pretty well.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Your second year, you were averaging about 13 points. Am I right?
Where?
In Europe. Right.
I think that was in Varese.
Yeah.
A small city in the northern part of Italy, and that was kind of where I was able to get the ball a little bit more. Some of our veterans had left. We had a new team that year. So they were feeding me the ball a lot, and I had a lot more confidence in my game as well. Worked really hard, so it was a good year for me.
Yeah. So that year, I'm sure the Suns scouted you, right?
Yes. The owners of the Italian team were very good, close friends with the Colangelos.
Oh, okay.
And so they were keeping an eye on me, and one of my mini tryouts during one of those summers, the Phoenix Suns brought me in, and Sky Skiles was entering his second year. He kind of took over in the middle of the year before, and then he was starting his first full year the next year, and he really liked the way I was playing in the tryout, and just asked me what I was going to be doing, and I was just like, well, try it out, and if not, go back to Europe. And so he made that, took a note of that, and talked to my agent and got me on the team. So that was my first NBA job there.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And how did that feel? I mean, I know you say there's a little bit of a difference. How did that feel coming into the NBA and being exposed to that? Were you a little nervous, or are you already used to it because you play internationally?
Well, I would say I wasn't so nervous just because internationally, playing for Puerto Rico, we had played either some of the college, guys like Tim Duncan. I had a really good game against Tim Duncan and the USA Select team, which was big for me. So, and playing in the NCAA, I had played against some of those guys before. So it's not like, I was nervous or scared about it, but I was definitely excited because that was a goal of mine to play in the NBA. And to be able to do that, coming from where I came from, and just fighting through all that, the difficulties, to get there, that was, it was a blessing, and I really was very thankful for that. And it was, it was just a great experience, and also just a good time to kind of also reflect, like, man, look at all the hard work you put into it, and and here you are playing with some of the best in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, do you still know that you play? I believe with Jason Kidd, right? Was it with the Suns at the time you started with them?
Yep. Yeah, that was my first year was Jason Kidd, and then later on with Stephon Marbury. Those 2 years that I was there. So yeah, Jason Kidd was great playing with him. He loved to pass the ball, so all you had to do was just have your hands ready, and next thing you know, that ball was pretty much like in your hands magically.
Yeah.
And just got to either dunk it or put it in. But yeah, he was a pass first point guard, so it was really cool to play with somebody like that. And Stephon, a little bit different, a little more of a ball dominator. Likes to dominate the ball, even though he did, pass the ball and get some assists. But he was more of a shoot first kind of guard. So, but I had an injury my second year, so I didn't really get to play with him that much.
Okay.
So,
would you say Jason Kidd's like one of the best point guards you played with in your career?
Yeah, I mean, has to be. He does a lot of things, not only on offense, but defensively. He plays defense. He's like 6'3", 6'4", so he's got good size, can run the floor, and just sees the floor so well. I mean, he makes other people around him better. I mean, and that was more obvious in New Jersey than probably any other place that he played. I mean, obviously with the Mavericks, he won a championship, but the cast of characters that he was with in New Jersey, I mean, I think he really made all those guys look really good. And they were good players, but to have somebody get the ball to you in a place where you can easily score a basket, that's something special. Yeah. So he creates a lot of opportunities for others.
Like you said, just have your hands ready and you don't get a bucket.
yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Ready.
Yeah. So I was reading about that 2004 game when you were with Puerto Rico and you guys played USA. Well, first I want to ask, how do you feel like going into that? Like you're playing USA, they're kind of like the big brother. Like, what is your mentality going in there? Because a lot of teams are like, okay, we're obviously gonna get blown out or something like that. But what was your guys' mentality going into that game?
Well, like for me personally, I felt like I've always kind of been like an underdog all my life and been able to prove a lot of people wrong. So it's just one of those things you're just keeping at it. They're human too, and so you're just trying to work hard so you'll have your opportunity, because anything can happen on any day. And a lot of our guys, a lot of the Puerto Rican players I played with, they played in the NCAA. So we've either played with or against a lot of those guys growing up. So it's one of those things, and we've played each other before in exhibition games and things like that. We know what they're capable of doing, but the Puerto Ricans are very feisty, and they there's a never say die attitude, and I think that was something that was real prevalent in that game. That hey, we're just gonna go out there and just play our hardest. We've played them before. We've beat some of those guys before in some of the international competitions, especially playing for the under 22 team in Puerto Rico. So we've had some success against them in the past. So, we were just, praying that this would be our moment, but we, definitely not scared. We had a good mix of guys, good mix of veterans and young guys. So it was, pretty much the perfect storm for us, especially at that stage. It was amazing.
Yeah. So how did it feel winning it? I mean, you're on a national platform. You guys just beat USA. You guys beat rookie LeBron, rookie Carmelo, Iverson. And how do you guys feel after that?
Yeah, it was great. It was great because it's like the little brother kind of knocking out the big brother one time. But what made it even more special was just the stage that we were on. It was the first game, for both teams, for us and the USA, and everybody since Dream Team, everybody's everybody wants to see the USA play and see what spectacular things they're going to do and things like that. And so when that happened, you realize, like, man, we shook up the world, as one of my teammates, Sharif Fajardo, said. Right after the win, we shook up the world, like Muhammad Ali said. And we were getting interviewed by the press, and just people were just amazed of what had happened. David and Goliath kind of a story. Yeah. So it was basketball history, obviously, even more so for Puerto Rico. Because there's a big love and passion for basketball there, and just to be a part of that was pretty amazing. So, but we had to get back down to earth real quick, because that was just the first game of the Olympics. So, and we had some tough opponents ahead of us. Lithuania was another tough team that we had to play against, and they actually beat us by 4. So that might have kind of been like a little bit of a hangover game from all the celebrating and things like that. I mean, we had people applauding us in the Olympic cafeteria. So just people congratulating us, and things like that. So it was a truly a tremendous experience, and just really thankful for God giving us that opportunity to have.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. A lot of people say that game was like the game where, the basketball world was like, oh, okay, these foreigners can play, like the Europe leagues can play. What do you have to say about that? You agree with that, or?
I think the world. I think that was definitely the time when a lot of the international players were starting to come into the NBA. Mm-hmm. Dirk Nowitzki. Vlade Divac had already kind of broken some barriers. Tony Kukoc, those guys. So there were some players that have already kind of been able to, come over to the NBA and play. I think, in 2002 in Indianapolis, the World Championships in Indianapolis, Argentina beat USA.
Yeah.
That was kind of really the start of their golden generation that they had. And, we were kind of in the mix of that, because we had to play Argentina, teams like Argentina, Brazil, and, Canada. So, there was always some tough competition. Those Argentinian players were playing in Europe, and European basketball was really rising. And especially with the Dream Team first coming and playing in Barcelona and in the Olympics in Barcelona, that really started a catalyst of different players really wanting to play basketball in Europe. Mm-hmm. So slowly but surely, they're catching up and understanding the game and how it's played. To be a part of that, man, I'm very proud to say that I was a part of that, and for those kinds of victories, I think it did change. I think it changed the way USA basketball prepared for these international competitions, because before they would maybe meet a week or two before the tournament and just outplay everybody just because they were just super fast and super strong and athletic. But the world was starting to catch up, and we had some guys that were playing at a high level at that time on our team as well. So it was a great opportunity for us.
That's awesome, man. I know you played with Carlos Arroyo and JJ Barea. What was that like? Those are big NBA guys too.
Carlos and I, played a lot together in a lot of different tournaments. Just an amazing player, a player that put a lot of hard work and determination, in his game. A great talent from Puerto Rico. A lot just like JJ. Guys that were born in Puerto Rico on the island, and at the size that they play at, and the determination that they have, and the skill sets that they have, really brings a lot of hope to the people on the island. And so they're heroes that people look up to. So it was cool to be able to play with those guys. But it was tough too, because when we were playing in some of these international tournaments, we're playing against some guards that are really big. So we really tried hard to use their speed and quickness, against the bigger, stronger guards. So it was, it wasn't easy, but like I said, we never backed down. We always played hard. We always gave ourselves a chance. But playing with those guys, I mean, is amazing. You got to keep up with them because they're real quick.
Yeah.
Once they get that basketball, they're gone. So, just being able to play with those guys, even at the same time on the court, is a blessing, and I'm just thankful that I was able to take part in that.
That's awesome.
Do you still communicate with all your players that you played with? Do you still guys keep in touch?
Yes and no. Everybody's got a lot of things going on. A lot of guys have families. I mean, I have my own family as well. But we do try to, send a text or a WhatsApp or a call every once in a while. Now that I'm on Instagram, I'm starting to connect with a lot more people. I got off that. I never got onto social media just because, there's a lot of negativity that comes with that. And now that I'm playing, I'm like, well, they can't really say that I played terrible right now. So that was 5-6 years ago. So whatever. Being able to reconnect with some people through that. So that's been cool. It's been a blessing. And, hopefully I can connect with some more guys, man, because, everybody's in different fields now. Some are still connected with basketball. Other guys are in different fields in their life. So it's interesting to see how basketball has, affected them and changed their lives in different ways.
All right, that's awesome.
Now, you say you have kids. Do any of your kids are playing basketball?
My oldest daughter, she used to play a little bit. It's tough when, somebody like me is your father, and I guess the other kids really expect my kids to already know how to play the game and be able to dunk it and do whatever, and they're their own person. Right. So my daughter did play. She liked it. I think that she got a little more interested in other sports like volleyball, and that kind of allowed her to be kind of her own person, right. So to speak. And also my middle daughter as well. She does volleyball and track. My little boy, he likes the video games. So I know that his friends are starting to play a little bit of basketball now. He's 12. So, he'll play with them, and he's actually pretty good, but I don't know if the same thing is true for him, that, a lot of people know who I am, and, there's pressure on them at times, to be really good. So, and that's not necessarily the case. And the other thing is too, is I was a late bloomer, so to speak. So I think that's true with, my kids as well. So, but I try not to push it on them, but I do at least, get them out there and kind of just show them how to do things. So when their friends start to ask them to play, then, they know they don't look like they're too lost out there.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So you played in the era of like big basketball where, you like the centers and power forwards dominated the game. Who would be the toughest player you've had to guard in the paint? Because you were a center, so I'm curious to see.
When I was playing in Phoenix, obviously I had to play against Shaq. Yeah. Sabonis, when he was in Portland, there was a guy for the Clippers, Mike Olowokandi. He was a big guy. Guys like Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Tim Duncan. Not easy guys to defend, but I'd say that Shaq was probably the one that was the most difficult, just because of his sheer size and strength. Played against Yao Ming. Great players, Hall of Famers. So it was not. So I was in some pretty decent company.
Yeah.
Playing with some pretty decent players. So so that was a pretty good experience. Tough experience, but it was one that I never backed down to. So I always felt if I did anything good, that people were just like always going to be amazed about it. So I'm not too old where I don't have some video on the internet and the kids can look me up and say, oh, you played against Duncan or Shaq or whatever. So I'm still kind of relevant in that sense.
That's awesome, man. Are you still keeping in touch with like today's basketball, like watching the games and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I watch it a little bit. Probably not as much as before. The game's changed. There's a lot more shooting of the three and things like that. The big guys are, which I'm fine with. I could shoot, but most of the teams that I played with, we had enough shooters, so I just was that inside presence because a lot of there weren't too many big guys, so I took advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, I tell guys all the time, like, this is basketball. Learn how to shoot from everywhere. You want to be effective, and wherever you get the ball, you want to be a threat. Right. So I don't mind it. As long as you're taking shots within the system, and you're just not shooting 100 basketballs just to shoot 100 basketballs. I mean, everything has a purpose and a place. So. I'm all for shooting a three. If you're open, shoot the three. If not, drive, pass. Be a basketball player.
Yeah. Now, David and I have this conversation before where we feel that back in the days, because we were watching The Last Dance with Jordan, and he was saying how back in the days the sport was more physical than now. I mean, I was watching a game with you against Shaq, and you guys were all over each other, like defending, each other, and it seemed very physical. And I think that if we were to see that nowadays, it's like they'll call a foul. And I mean, that physicality has kind of gone away nowadays than before. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that it should just, be like back in the days where there was still that physicality, or do you think that even playing right now is even right? I mean, it seems more like it's more like elementary, like, oh, foul, oh, I got hurt, like, it's I just think that's kind of dumb. What do you feel about that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be tough because the athletes are so big and strong and quick, but. I have to agree, that back in the day it was way more physical, even before my time. If you see some of the clotheslines that some of these guys, gave each other, it was a different mentality back then. Now more so than ever, we're playing, athletes, NBA players are playing a lot of games. I mean, 82 games. Yeah. There's really no time to practice. And I've been on both ends of that. I've started, and I've come off the bench. And like in Phoenix, when you were starting, if you played more than 20 minutes, then it was a grind. But then if you didn't play those 20 minutes, then you had to get some kind of conditioning in afterwards. And because everybody's putting in a lot of time and effort, so you gotta have yourself ready to go. And you have so many games, it's very tough to have these guys come in and have a full blown practice. I mean, there was times when we played maybe a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3, the guys that didn't play that much. So with that being said, a lot of people are trying to really protect themselves. And I think the league's trying to do that too, to preserve, the athletes, because as an athlete, your careers, it's not very long. Obviously in football, the lifespan career-wise for a football player is very short. It's a very physical game, and we're out there with no pads. And I'm not saying we're out there tackling each other, but sometimes you're jumping in the air. It doesn't matter how big and strong you are. People can pretty much do whatever they want to you if you're jumping in the air and take your legs out from under you. So I think they've done a good job of just trying to protect the players a little bit more, because it's a physical game. It's an emotional game. Guys come from different backgrounds, and we all have, different issues. A guy gets punched in the back, he might not react, the same as another guy, So some guys might go off the chain. So I think they really, it's tough. You want to be tough. You have to fight through contact. But I think they're trying to. I think they're doing a pretty good job of just, protecting the longevity of the players, because that's what makes the money. To play, people come to watch the players play. If the guy is hurt, sales are going to go down. Ticket sales are going to go down because they want to see their favorite player play. So I think it's just wise on the NBA's part of just protecting their investment. You can say it's, soft now or whatever. I think it's a lot more technical now. I think you have to be smarter now. Get your body in position before. So I think it just makes the game, even more intense and competitive and detailed. Whereas before you could just run right through people. But I think they're doing a pretty good job of protecting the game, and I can see how it can be frustrating. I think the consistency has to be a big priority, and that as a player, that's frustrating, because you're like, well, last night I was able to put my arm here, my arm bar here, and now tonight I can't. So I think that's very important that they keep it consistent, so the players go, okay, that was a foul. My fault.
So they get the gist of it, like what they can do and what they can't do. Right.
Right. And the game has changed so much since Wilt Chamberlain and those guys. I mean, the paint was only like 3 feet wide back in the day, and that's why you saw the big guy dominate so much. So they had to widen the paint. Guys got like Charles Barkley, just back a guy down for 5. 50 dribbles, just back the guy down. So there's, the NBA's always, I have to give them credit. They're always trying to, modify things, change things, try to make the game more fluid and exciting for the fans. And as players, we got to do the best we can to adjust to those things. But I think the communication between the players and the league is very important, and I think they've been doing a pretty good job of that. So there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I know that right now with the coronavirus, it's affecting all the sports, and they're even talking about playing without fans. What do you think about that? How would it feel? I know a lot of players have said that the fans is what kind of drives them to, play or to, make these shots. What do you think it would be playing in an empty stadium?
It's an interesting question, because, I mean, when you practice, you're used to there not being fans. I mean, you're kind of your own motivator. Obviously, when the fans are there, whether they're against you or for you, that can affect the players as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think guys that are self-motivators won't have an issue, but guys that really need, the fans and the atmosphere, it could be an issue. But you're a professional player. You're going to have to, adjust in these difficult times. yes, I prefer playing, you know, with fans there. You know, if I'm at a away game, it's better that the fans are not there. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was saying
But
too. Is that like now, like when the playoffs comes back, it's like there's no home games. It's like it's just the gym
right.
environment. So that could be a big like turning point, you know, in outcomes of the games and stuff like that. So that's really big.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I mean, bottom line, as an athlete, you know, we're paid to play the game. We're still providing entertainment. The fans, you know, are gonna watch if it's on TV or, you know, on the internet, just because of the times that we're living in. And that's the one thing great about sports is that it can bring people together and kind of take our minds off of, you know, some of the negativity that is going on in our world.
Definitely.
And I think as an athlete, that's a big responsibility to have, and that we should, you know, take some honor and some pride in that. You know, yes, I'd love to play with, you know, fans there, but if this is a situation we're dealing with, we're trying to make the most of it. Then hey, you know what? We gotta as teammates, we gotta be our biggest fans out there on the floor and cheer each other on. You know, so I that's how I look at it. It's not going to be easy, but we're not living in easy times right now. So
things are changing real quick.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully, I think they're trying to get everything started up here in Orlando. Near where I live. Yeah, it's about 2 hours away from where I live. So it's going to be interesting how they do that and try to keep everybody, you know, quarantined and separate and you know, with minimal contact as possible. So it's definitely challenging to do. But you know, I think for the sake of sport and just people's well-being, I think it would, you know, be important for the NBA players to play, you know, even without the fans.
Yeah. Well, how would you feel about that? I mean, how would you feel if they you're still playing and they put you in a bubble and you're basically there for 3 months? How would you take that?
Man, if you love the game,
yeah.
I think you're going to do whatever's possible to play the game.
Yeah, okay.
And obviously, you know, yes, you want to be smart about it. We have to take the necessary precautions, things like that. But you know, I'm just the type of person. I know that, you know, I have a limited amount of games to be able to play for the rest of my career, the rest of my life, or whatever. So, you know, I would rather be playing, it could be an empty arena or whatever, than just, you know, sitting at home, you know, not doing too much. But that's just me, because you know, when I play, it's like that. It's like that movie. It's an old movie called Chariots of Fire, and it's about these guys that run. And one guy says when he runs, he feels like it's the glory of God, you know, smiling down on him. That's what God blessed him with.
Right. God
blessed these NBA players and me the ability to play this game at a high level.
Yeah.
And you know, and that was, you know, for me is big. You know, these are the skills that God has given me, and I want to use these skills to the best of my ability. So He, you know, smiles down on me, and I think that also the light of Him, you know, shining down on me reflects off me onto other people, and hopefully there's people that enjoy watching me do what I do out there on the court. And I think that, you know, that would be a good mentality to have, because like I said before, you know, sports can take the people's minds off of, you know, a lot of the difficult situations that they're in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, God gives everybody a certain talent, not everybody, you know, has that talent. You know, like I can't play basketball like you do, but I love my job as an electrician, and, you know, vice versa, other people, you know, and I think, you know, that
Right. No, and there's no shame in that. You take pride in what you do. We always look at people like artists or celebrities or whatever, and you're just like, man, I wish I could do this and that. It's nice to think about those things, but in a lot of cases, we can't walk a mile in some of those people's shoes. Yeah. We don't know. I don't know what you go through in a day. You know what I mean? It might be something that might be very difficult for me to handle, and vice versa. So, I think you have to kind of be cautious of saying those things. I wish I could, do this, but it is good to have those dreams and those desires, and I think those dreams and desires can lead you into, what God wants you to do.
Definitely.
So that's kind of what happened to me. My dream was to make it to the big leagues in baseball, and God, helped me take another turn and another path into something that I never, thought could happen on this amazing journey of playing basketball.
That's awesome.
Touching back on errors a little bit, because I'm curious about it. Today's NBA, it's all about pace and get a shot up and then come back and then go back, get another shot up under 8 seconds. And back then I'm curious to see how it was back then. Like, what was your guys' game plan? Like, or a big shooting threes, because that wasn't a big thing back then. Or what was the Suns or Milwaukee Bucks game plan back then?
We just like any team, if we can get in run, we're going to get in run, especially with players like Jason Kidd. And then when I was playing for Milwaukee, we had TJ Ford. Yeah. My first year was a very quick guard. So, I think the philosophy is for most guys, if we can get out and run and get an easy basket, then that's what we'll do. There's maybe some teams that weren't as fast, so they had to maybe slow it down a little bit. The Lakers, they had Shaq. So, if they couldn't get an easy one, then they just wait for the big fella to come down there and then swing the ball 2-3 times, and the shooters will be ready. Mm-hmm. So, in that aspect, I think it has changed just because you have, these bigger guys that are able to pull up, right away from in transition. So, and if you're open, then, it's a good shot. So, it just depends on the personnel, the makeup of the team. But yeah, I think, if you put our team, with a team that's in the, a nowadays team, it'd be interesting to see, because they would have to adjust to us and we would have to probably adjust to them, and the team that was able to do that the best was probably going to have the best chance to win. So it's interesting. You could go back and forth on it all the time, but we would probably slow it down and just try to get a good shot. Whereas a lot of teams are really pulling in transition, and so if you don't have some good shooters that can knock it down that way, then and you're missing, it's going to be a rough night.
Who was one guy? Because you came in the league young. Who was one guy? Was there any player that you watched growing up, and all of a sudden you're on the same court as him? Was there any player like that?
David Robinson. He was somebody that I always admired. Being a Christian, a fellow believer, I always watched him when he was playing. So to be able to play against him when I got there in Phoenix was really cool. And I also had a chance to play against him in the when I was in Italy. We won the championship. And the next year, we were hosting the McDonald's. It was called the McDonald's Games, where they invited. It was like an invitational, and all the teams that had won championships in their leagues got invited to Italy and Milan, and we just had like a little like a tournament. And I had a really good game against Tim Duncan and David Robinson, and had a nice dunk against Duncan, and it was a great game, and so it was really cool to be out there on the floor playing against him, and then later on in the NBA. So Yeah, it was just, it's just a surreal experience because of somebody you watch. And then obviously the other players that were out there, but, before that, it was always cool to watch them on TV. And then it's like, man, I'm standing right next to them.
Yeah.
And, they look a little bit bigger on TV than they do in person. I mean, and I'm 7 foot, so it's a little easier for me to say that too. But just to be a part of that and just to see the quickness and explosiveness and of some of those guys, is just like, it was really cool to be a part of that, man.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Another question before we go. Who was your favorite teammate all throughout your playing careers? Who was that?
As far as the NBA, I think playing with Jason Kidd was a lot of fun, just because he didn't really waste too much time with that basketball.
Yeah.
Whoever was open, he was going to give it to, and I always felt like that was the right way to play the game. And I think that's what gave him a lot of longevity as well. I see a lot of players that really like to pound the basketball many times in the game, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do, and if you pass the ball to somebody who's already running ahead of you, then you give it to them, and now you can kind of rest or get yourself ready on defense or whatever. But somebody who's bringing the ball up and down and pounding it 1,000 times a game, they're spending a lot of energy, and that's a lot of time watching them play with the basketball. So in my opinion, it's very difficult for players like that. I mean, and there are some amazing players that can do it, but as far as a team sport, I mean, it's a team sport, man. You gotta pass the ball, share the love, man. Spread the love or something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Jason Kidd probably had to have been one of the favorite teammates to play with in the NBA. And then I played with some really good players overseas as well. There's one guy, his name is Jeff Aubrey, a very good teammate, unselfish teammate that played with me in Puerto Rico and Arecibo. Really good guy, and he's we've remained friends over time. But great guy to have in the locker room.
That's awesome.
Nice. Now, did anybody take you under their wing while you were in the NBA?
In the NBA, not really. I mean, when I got there, I really expected to, have, somebody kind of mentor me. I got there early, one of the last ones to leave. That was one of the main things. I was like, if they don't like me because I'm not talented enough, then so be it. But I'm not going to be one of the guys they're going to say that, didn't come in and work hard. So, everybody kind of just, went their own way in the NBA. We're arriving at the hotel. You have your own hotel room, so you didn't have a roommate, unlike in Europe. But the one guy I will say that was like a mentor to me was when I first started going to Puerto Rico. His name is Jerome Mincy. And he's played for Puerto Rico for many years.
He's like a legend, right? He's like a Puerto Rican legend, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
He's actually, he's American, but he was born in Puerto Rico on the military base. His father was in the military, so he played as a Puerto Rican. And just when I first got there, he just took me under his wing. And he always calls me Big Dan. He's like, "Hey, Big Dan, let's we would finish practice. He's all right, Big Dan, let's get some more work in." And he'd just go in there and just smack me around. He was a real strong guy. He was about 6'8", power forward, and so he saw a lot of potential in me, and just did mentored me on just how to get ready for Europe and playing in some stronger leagues. And so that I was forever grateful. But he was like a basketball father figure to me. So it was real important. And I just saw him about a weekend ago down here in Florida. So we stay in touch, and so it's a good relationship. But yeah, it was a blessing because he really helped me out a lot, just to have that professional mentality of what to expect when I play in those games, and the physicality, especially international play. I mean, it is very physical. So he helped me prepare for that. So yeah, Jerome Mincy.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome. Now, what would you say? What do you say to the kids? Somebody who looks up to a basketball player or any type of player, like, what would you suggest or say to them as a kid who wants to be a pro? Any words of encouragement that you would have for someone like that?
First thing I would say is, to study, be a student of the game. I used to watch all the superstar highlight videos, of the NBA players. They used to have like the NBA had like a video superstars or something like that. It was NBA superstars, and they would have music and show the highlights of all the athletes, and I'd watch their footwork, watch what they do, watch and see what made them successful. And it wasn't just one guy, it'd be different guys. Elijah Wan, that was another guy that I learned a lot from. David Robinson. Just try to take their different things that they do in their games and try to apply it to yours, and try to help and just study it. Just study it. And then the other thing I would say is, you need to discipline yourself, discipline your body, discipline your mind. That means that there's going to be sacrifices made. Sacrifices made in what you eat, who you hang around with. You gotta. I was fortunate to have a good friend of mine. His name was is Travis Beeman, and he and I were just good friends in high school, and we went and played at the park on the streets, and we would go together, and we'd watch each other's back, and we were, like it says in the Bible, iron sharpens iron. We just kept our game sharp and just got better and sacrificed time playing. A lot of people are out partying. Hey, I was working on my game or trying to get a good night's rest, be ready for the game. Whatever it is, because those other outside distractions, they can be, a hindrance to you. And we see it happens all the time with a lot of pro players. It's a lot of distractions, and then they lose their edge. And, that's something that you don't want to do. So, just be careful, and the people you choose to be around you, choose people that are going to help you, not hurt you. And just look for good mentors and ask questions, and practice, be in shape, so you're always ready.
Awesome. That's good advice. Thank you.
But the most important advice I can give, all that is good, when it's said and done. But the most important advice I can say is to have a good relationship with God.
Yes.
I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I know what Christ did on the cross for me, and I know that God has opened up a lot of doors in my favor, throughout my whole career. You couldn't map out my career the way it's been mapped out. I basically traveled the globe for free just because of around basketball.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be a baseball player. So. God really...
God has different plans for you. Even though we want to go one way, he says, no, I have a different plan for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you don't have a good relationship with God, you're not going to hear that still small voice. And I mean, I'm just being real with you.
Definitely.
There was a lot of times where I was waiting for teams to pick me up, and leagues had already started and season had already started. And I was really nervous. And then God was like, no, I got something better for you. Because usually when that happens, you kind of have to go to whatever team picks you up. And I was able to go to, a big team like Barcelona, for example. That was a late, there was a late decision. Their season had already started 2 weeks into the Spanish league, and I was nervous, but they called me up, and it was a really, really good situation. We won a championship with them. So, that was a blessing from God. If I had been impatient, I might have taken another offer, and, I know God was going to be with me, but it probably wouldn't have been as sweet.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So that would be the biggest thing I can say, man. Just get in that word, get in touch with God, and you got to see. You have to see things the way He sees things, and see how He sees you. So that's the biggest thing I could say as far as advice.
Oh, thank you very much.
And the rest will all come into play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we that's awesome that you say that, because we are very Christian. My mother-in-law, David's mom, she's a big Christian woman, and she invades, the word of God, and just leave it in God's hand, and God will open doors for you tremendously, and we've been blessed enough to be blessed by the Lord, and a lot of things, and which your word is very encouraging to those who don't know the Lord, and sometimes it's kind of hard to invade that to to kids, because they're young and they're like, oh well, if you follow God, it's not gonna be what I want to do, and I want to do what the world does. The world is so corrupt and kind of leads you a different route instead of going to God's way. But like you said, if you have a good relationship with God, it's going to be an awesome, ride.
Yeah, and the main thing is too is it's not going to be without its trials and difficulties. Right. God doesn't promise a free pass to everything. No, I mean, he said He's going to be there when those troubles come. So that means that the trouble will come. Yeah. So. I'd rather have God on my side than just me thinking I can do it by myself. So it's very, very important to understand that it's not easy. It requires a lot of work. You have to try to get close to God, and He'll get close to you. God's not going to push anything on you. Yeah. So I think that's very important to know and understand.
Definitely. Awesome. Thank you.
Is there anyone you want to give a little shout out to or show love to on the podcast?
Man, just shout out to whoever's listening. I hope this has been a blessing to you. All the people that have been fans and that follow my career. I thank you, and thank you for your prayers too, especially during the times when I had maybe some injuries or difficulties. You never know who's praying for you, so just shout out to those people, and for the people that don't know me, man, get in that word and work hard, and stay at it, and do a lot of praying. Get around good people, other believers that are there to lift you up and keep you sharp, because there's a lot of people out there that are just there when everything's good. So
definitely.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. You don't know how much we appreciate this. It's awesome.
It's like you say, it's a blessing.
Just getting into the mind of a professional player. We're really grateful. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Well, thank you guys for having me on, man. I appreciate it, and I always enjoy being able to share what I've learned to other people, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to those that hear it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Who do you have to shout out, David? Anybody to shout out?
Well, shout out you, man, Daniel Santiago. Thank you for coming on, man. This is, like you said, it's a God put this in my hand. I think I feel like I saw your profile. I was like, let me shoot him a DM, and you answered, so that was awesome.
That's Instagram working in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just shout out God too, just putting this all together. Yeah, and all my friends and family supporting the podcast. Thank you, we appreciate it. Is there anyone you want to shout out?
No, I mean just him, Daniel Santiago, for coming on this, our families for being supportive, and for God always leading us in the right steps. Like we're just kind of leaving it in God's hands to direct our podcast. We don't know where we want to go, but God has plans, and wherever He takes us, He's gonna take us. And it's been a blessing just to have you and to actually just hear you speak about God without having us to tell you, hey, what do you think about God? It's just you being able to just speak it yourself. It's just awesome. And seeing
Amen. Just trying to be real with it, man. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. Just be you being able to just shine the light on God and saying, hey, things happen for a reason. Like God planned this, for you to be on this podcast and for David to find you. It's just amazing, man. It just blows my mind what God does, what He's doing behind the scenes. It's just awesome.
Amen. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's a wrap. Episode 7 of It's All Love. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We're on Spotify and iTunes. And
look us up.
That's a wrap.
It's a wrap.